Well, baby, I'm on it with a bottle of wine and an old dirt road. Are you ready to go? Welcome, everybody, today to Live Music Nation podcast. I'm your host, Jake Gill. We are with Seamus McDonough from the Boulder Dinner Theater. Is that right?
Yeah, it's Seamus McDonough with BDT Stage. Yeah.
So you spell that with no H, right?
Correct. It's the traditional Irish spelling, actually.
It's the red beard. I got you.
Believe me, it's been a lifetime of Seamus.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Bless your parents for doing that to you.
Exactly.
What does it mean in Irish?
It actually translated in Gaelic, it's James.
Really? That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. The next time I'm drinking some whiskey, I'm gonna start reading the bottles, and I'm gonna see that name somewhere for sure. Cool, very good. Seamus, give us a little background on you. Where'd you grow up, and how did you get into theater?
Well, actually, BDT Stage, Boulder's Dinner Theater, was started in 1977 here in Boulder, Colorado, and my father was the original employee in the building.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
And worked here until 2012 when he retired. I actually started here in 1999, believe it or not. And yeah, I've worked my way up from everything there, but I was basically born and raised in live theater and live performance, and just
very cool. Very cool. You kind of just grew up as a kid in the theater, and you did shows and productions and went from there?
Correct. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Mostly backstage.
Okay. Very good. Tell us about the theater.
So, like I said, it was started in 1977. It was actually the choir teacher for Boulder High School was approached by a whole bunch of different families and investors about the fact of, like, hey, you're doing a great job with this. What would you think about opening a space? And so him with Jody Sarbaugh, Bruce Sarbaugh, and a group of investors, including our current owners, Gene and Judy Bowles, broke ground in 1976 and opened in 1977. And we've been doing 4 shows a year at least since then. And
how many seats do you have?
We're a 274 seat house, give or take. We can go ahead and add in a few tables. Our maximum occupancy for the building is 450.
Okay.
There's only been a few times we've been close to that.
Sure. So mainly theatrical productions, musicals. Do you do any other forms of live entertainment?
We actually do run concert series in between our main stage productions. We usually bring in bands. That's something that we started, again, coming out of COVID. We did have different, we'd have special nights where we'd bring in an artist or something for that sort, but it was usually like just 1 or 2 days or something like that around a time. But we definitely have a strict, about a month in between each run that we go ahead and we bring in different bands.
Very cool. So are you guys nonprofit status, or are you guys a for-profit?
We are a for-profit theater, which is an oxymoron, but
it's extremely rare because most of who we talk to are nonprofit, and they're constantly fundraising and constantly renovating, but they're usually old historic buildings. You kind of have a little rare niche in the market in that you have a newer facility. I say newer, it's 40 years old, right. But it's not, you don't have to deal with some of the maybe the politics that historic landmark facilities do. You can probably put whatever kind of windows in you want. You don't have to go through a historic society to get it done.
No, I mean, I will say, with the fact that we're a 40-year-old plus building, anytime that we can do some cosmetic things inside, but anytime that we're going to knock down a wall, that we don't do that just because we're grandfathered in with so many different things that it then becomes, instead of being, an $8,000 reno, it's going to turn into, $250,000 because we got to change a whole bunch of different stuff. So there are the pros and cons for sure.
Very good. What are some of the challenges that you guys face as a for-profit entity?
Well, I mean, as a for-profit entity, I mean, it's not having any sort of funding that's coming in. We can't get, SV or SF, the Science and Foundation. name's escaping me, but we don't get any federal funding. We don't get any state funding. We did, luckily during COVID, just to be able to keep the doors open. We had like the Shuttered Venues Operations Grant that we got. We got a grant from Boulder County. We got a grant from the state, which really helped us get through that time. But even now, going ahead and trying to get, it's hard. People are still hesitant to come back in. It's really got to be something that where you had a little bit of leeway, where people, if they weren't sure about something, they'd be like, oh yeah, no, I'll go and see that. That would be interesting. It's not necessarily that anymore. It's, you have to have a surefire thing that's going to be in there. And you can think something is completely surefire and it's not by any means. So it's trying to find the balance with all of that.
What are some of the advantages of being a for-profit entity versus a nonprofit theater?
I mean, there is no board that we have to answer to. We can go ahead and we can switch up things as we want. That is definitely an advantage. It's the red tape is definitely a lot less with all of that. And it's mostly just if we're getting the butts in the seats, that's something that we get to keep everything with that, and that goes to our owners or goes to whatever, it goes to further productions. It really does make it's much easier in many ways. What's your major forms of marketing as a profit entity in theater? You know, for the most part, like our biggest responses that we get is from our email list, or if from word of mouth. Those are the two biggest things that we get things from. We do a lot of stuff on social media, and especially have over the pandemic and everything, since the pandemic, excuse me, really trying to build, you know, different things with Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of that, even starting a TikTok.
That's what I wondered, if you'd started your TikTok channel. Yeah,
we have. We're still trying to break in with all of that. And it's trying to keep up with the times. I mean, for the longest time, the biggest thing that we had was newspaper ads. Well, that's not a thing anymore. And if you do it, it's super, super expensive now. So it doesn't.
You guys video every performance that's in your theater?
We do an archival video. Then we'll use clips from that to go ahead and actually do that.
That saves so much time on, especially TikTok. You can pump out 4 or 5 TikToks a day, just going back through the archives of stuff, and especially the variety that you bring in. I looked at your website. You do some musicals, you do some drama, you do some comedy. That kind of hits a little bit. And the great thing about TikTok and even Instagram now is the organic reach is still really strong there, and especially if you can select your locations. And so the great thing about TikTok for me, like an artist, is that it goes worldwide and you don't have to control that, but you can also narrow that down, and it's free and it doesn't cost you a damn thing to do. So that's kind of cool. And I wondered how, you know, production companies and theaters were going to start utilizing that as it goes through there. So that's kind of neat that opportunity is there. And it's even great that you already have that video, and all you have to do is cut and splice, and your content's ready as you go through there. What are some things that you're looking to do in the future? And I specifically asked this question in regards to the overall long-term health of your theater. We brought on a guest earlier, and he talked about he was thinking about going into ministry or theater production. Those were his 2 career paths. And so he grew up in the church, and they always said the health of a church, the future of a church, is really related to the number of kids running up and down the halls. And that really solidified the future of that. And he said the same thing as in theater. How involved are kids in your theater? And then what are you doing to really solidify that for the future?
Well, I will say we used to have a bunch of kids programs that we would run through the building. We had a kids camp that was actually a nonprofit entity that would be running. We would let them use our space, and we'd have the different middle school and high school kids being able to come in. For all of that, we make sure to try to have family oriented programming for the summers, especially like right now we're running SpongeBob.
I saw that.
Really trying to make it an experience for the kids, because it's also the whole idea of it, especially being a dinner theater. When they come in, it's not just an hour and a half. I mean, they're here for 4 to 5 hours when they're sitting down. So they're sitting down, they're having dinner, they're seeing a show, but getting kids to be interested in the whole thing it's difficult when you have them sitting for that long. So our actors are actually the ones who are waiting tables. So they get to interact with the characters at the tables that they're seeing for all of that. And that's a big thing. I will say that we are heading into our final season, at least at this location. We don't know what the future is going to hold for everything. The land that we are on and the building have been sold. So they will be either moving on or closing down next year at some point. And just trying to, keep the whole, we've had 45 years, just trying to keep that. We've had parents who brought their kids in 1977, then their kids brought their kids, and then we're now even getting into another generation of kids. So it's really just that family aspect of just continuing on showing how important live theater and live events are.
Absolutely. So your dinner theater segments, your actors, are they all local there in the Boulder area?
99%, yes. And when we're looking for, when it comes to having to get something that you can't find locally, that's when we'll look outside. But we've had a core group of actors for a very long time. Some of which have been, there are people who could have gone off to Broadway very easily, but they are here and they made a family here and have really just been an integral part of what we do, because of the fact of the relationship that they have with those patrons. Those patrons come back because it's like they're seeing old friends. Good.
Well, hopefully you can find a way to continue that. And I think sounds like you've got the support of your community. So hopefully that will work for you guys as well. Let's have a little bit of fun for just a second. What is your all-time favorite Broadway production you've ever seen?
All-time favorite Broadway production I've ever seen. I'd say my all-time favorite show probably has to be Rock of Ages.
Okay. All right. If you could bring in one musical act, dead or alive, into the Boulder Dinner Theater, who would it be?
Frank Sinatra.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Can you imagine? I can't imagine that show. Here, what would you serve for dinner with Frank Sinatra?
You got to have steak and potatoes, because I know that he talked about steak and potatoes. The man ate a whole bunch. It would have to be a hearty amount of stuff, because he always said you had to be full to make sure to sing those notes.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's so cool. Seamus, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it. Good luck to you guys in the future. We'll be watching to see what happens.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, baby, I'm on it with a bottle of wine.